For many years now, the Victorian property market has been the ugly duckling. It's been the thing that's trailing behind. Western Australia has gone absolutely bananas. South Australia has gone crazy. Queensland has gone mental. But can this exponential growth continue tracking along? And do markets like Victoria hold some more opportunity? Now, some people are getting scared off with all of these rental legislation changes. In March 2021, they had 133 new changes brought in. July 23, they had all these windfall land tax changes, which limits supply. I think that's a good thing. The Premier was threatening rental caps. January, they introduced a new land tax. There's all of these things that have been pushing against the Victorian property market. And to be honest, it's been holding it back. You can see that in the data. But I want to understand, where is the next hotspot? Perth has grown exponentially over the past 3 years. Where is the next Perth, and is that in Victoria? So what we wanted to do was get a boots on the ground property manager, and we got Melissa Hickson, who is incredible. We talk all about what these new rules and regulations, they've been around a while, but the rules and regulations and what they mean for property management and what they mean for property investors. We do an around the grounds of all of Western Melbourne to see where the areas are to be investing in, where are the areas to be avoiding, and then we talk, where are the opportunities for value add? Hey everyone, my name is Joe Tucker, and together with Jeff Miles, we created Oz Property Investors, Australia's largest property investment community with over 76,000 property investors. And each week we interview top property experts and unpack their wisdom so that you don't have to go out there and do it all on your own. You've got a team of experts in your pocket that you can listen to. So like and subscribe. Let's jump into this session.
In Victoria, pre the changes, we did used to have what's called 120-day no reason notice, and that actually got removed from us. So we no longer are able to do that. So it means that if you have a tenancy in place and you then, it rolls on, like you've got a fixed term lease agreement for 12 months, and then you go to like a periodic lease agreement, just to see how it goes. And you wanted to then terminate the agreement with the tenancy, that 120-day no reason, it's not here anymore. So what it means for landlords is it's really important to, first of all, have a great property manager that actually is doing the lease renewals, not just letting the leases like expire on a periodic lease. Because if there is an issue with the tenancy, say for example, the tenant is like paying rent, right? And they're paying $500 here and then $200 there, and they're not paying the rent on time, or they're not looking after the property or whatever. If you actually let the lease expire, like continue on a periodic tenancy, what that then means is that you then risk not being able to remove the renter. The way to do it is within the first tenancy agreement. So the renter will then move into the property. They will then sign a lease for, say, 12 months. Or potentially even 13 months if you're not sure about the tenancy, because that would then give you an extra month to then look at what you do and if you terminate the agreement or you don't. But once the tenancy is secured, say for 12 months, you would then do the review around 3 months beforehand. And at that point, if you weren't happy with the tenancy, what you would then need to do is serve them with what's called an end of fixed term tenancy notice. It needs to be served a minimum of 90 days before the end of the lease. So lease expires in December, needs to be served in September, right? So the problem is that if that time frame is missed, then it becomes very difficult to actually remove the renter from the property if you're not happy with them. And that can only be done in the first tenancy. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So what happens, Mel, if you've got a great tenant, or on paper great tenant, first tenancy is all good, and then it goes to a second sort of lease and they start to sort of really sort of push the boundaries? What sort of recourse do you have on that?
It becomes challenging. So even for like someone that's super experienced like myself, like it does become challenging, because that notice would then be null and void. Like you wouldn't be able to do the end of fixed term tenancy. It's not the first tenancy agreement. There's no reason notice or anything like that. So it would come down to the skills of the property manager to manage the tenancy as best as possible for the for the owners, to make sure that you're educating your renters, you have the relationship with them, that you can actually have that conversation with them and say, hey, your first 12 months was great, I don't know what's going on, but you need to communicate with me so I can actually tell the owner what's happening, because we're not happy with the tenancy, or something's gone wrong. It could be, a marriage breakdown. It could be that they're having mental health issues, or it could be that, they've lost their job or something like that. If we don't know, we can't help them. But it would come down to the property manager trying to mitigate that issue.
What are some of the pockets of those areas that people are asking about you? Like, we want to know kind of the boots on the ground, because you are an expert in these areas. So where are people asking about?
Yeah, so look, most of the inquiries that are coming through are coming to me for the areas of Hoppers Crossing, Werribee, Wyndham Vale, Tenancy, Truganina area as well. Mostly probably the three main areas would be Wyndham Vale, Werribee and Hoppers Crossing. So they're where the calls are coming in from. I suppose in terms of affordability, when they're looking at buying properties, they might be looking at something around, the 600 to 650 thousand, which is still quite affordable, obviously, for people to sort of look at purchasing. And you can get properties in that pocket for that. There are homes that have sold, in Hoppers Crossing. If you look at the recent sales, there are 3 to 4 bedroom homes that have sold under 600,000. So I guess what we're sort of looking at is, when the calls come through, we'll actually help the clients with a rental analysis as well. So even if we don't view the property on their behalf, we can sort of say to them, look, before you go ahead and buy anything, let me have a look at the street, let me do a drive-by in the area. If I don't know the street super well, then we can drive past there when we're in the area. Let me do a market analysis on the property. And then, we can at least give the client the right information about if they, if we think that the area is good or it's not. But most of the inquiries are coming through from properties that maybe that, again, they need to put a little bit of money into a little bit of upkeep, potentially, just, to make it look a bit fresher and cleaner, because those properties potentially are not, might need a little bit of work, or might need to put a heating unit or something like that in there.
So why are these areas getting so much attention? I mean, what are the kind of draw cards to them?
Yeah, I'll use Hoppers Crossing as an example. There's a lot of really good schools in that area. You've got Bogbridge Primary School, you've got Cambridge, Mossville Estate. They're all really great areas around the Hoppers Crossing area. They're also really good in terms of schooling. People are sort of looking to live in those areas are young families. So potentially a couple, a dual income or a single income family that have smaller, younger children or school age children that are wanting a 3 or 4 bedroom property that, they can stay in for a long time. Those tenants or renters do tend to stay in properties more than
this pocket here, these 3 red dots here, and here are all primary schools. There's literally where's the high school? Is that another primary? This is another primary school.
Cambridge up there.
Woodville just down there. There's Wellington, Wyndham Park Primary.
Yeah.
There's another one. Oh my gosh. Do they have high schools?
Yeah, we've got high schools. We've got Hoppers High, which is on the otother side of Penang Drive. Yeah, we've got Hoppers High. Then up towards the Tenancy side, you've got Thomas Carr, which is a private school as well. So that's a high school. If you want to go really fancy, you've got Westbourne Grammar down the end there. It's a bit further up. But the main one in that high school in that area. There's also another college up Sayers Road a little bit as well. So there's more primary schools in that area, but I suppose more of the people that live in that area, I would say in terms of tenants, would be young families. So that kind of makes sense.
how are the vacancy rates in Victoria? So we had a mass exodus for rental properties, right? How is it now looking for vacancy rates? Because there's fewer investment properties, which tells me there's fewer investors in the market. So those properties are getting bought for owner occupiers. And then that tells me that rents are going to start to increase and days on markets are going to start to trend down. And then property vacancy yields are starting to get a little bit more attractive. What does that kind of all mean? But how are you seeing vacancies?
Yeah, so like within our core area, our vacancy rate sits at anywhere between sort of 1.5 to 2.5%. So it's fairly low. We've got like, if you're looking at, say, what I looked at before was like, I was looking at like St. Albans and Deer Park and stuff around there. So like that's still like 25 k's out of the city. The vacancy rates out there are only like 0.5, 0.6%. So like pretty low too. I guess one of the things that we are seeing at the moment is there is a lot of people that are applying for properties, right? There's no shortage of people that are looking for properties, right? There's a lot of inquiries, there's a lot of people coming, like we're getting a lot of applications. I suppose just one thing just to keep in mind is that the good quality applications do get snapped up really super quick, right? So those, again, coming back to like the property manager in your corner, if you don't actually have a good PM that's proactive with the leasing component, like you'll find that your vacancy will be higher because all the great tenants are getting taken by great agents that are processing their applications quicker. So it's just something to keep in mind, I suppose. But like what we're finding is that we're getting heaps of inquiries coming through, heaps of people. There's definitely still people looking, but the quality of applications sometimes cannot be super great because it's really competitive at the moment as well. People are trying to find, properties to live in. Properties are getting sold. People are moving back into their properties. Like obviously there's less homes on the market. There are some applications that are, that they're not great. So making sure that you screen them properly, have a great PM in your corner.
There's a great question that's come up to here. So, Joe, related question: are we seeing investors moving back?
Yeah, I mean that's the $1 million question, isn't it? I mean, I've got Melissa. What are you? Based on our chat before, you said there was 10 to you're getting sort of multiple you're getting double-digit inquiries for new investors per week. So it's what was that like 1 to 2 years ago? I mean, if you can remember.
I mean, we weren't getting people that are like from other states or buying Melbourne, that's for sure. So, yeah, like I feel that. I mean, look, when COVID really affected Melbourne, right? So Victoria, like it was like 200 odd days or something of lockdown, right? So all of our rents went down. There was properties like people getting free rents and discounted rents and all that kind of stuff. So we had to obviously recover from COVID, right? So, to get the properties back from like, a 2-bedroom apartment in the city that was renting for like $300 in COVID, that's now renting for like $700 per week. There's drastic increases that need to happen there and things like that. So there's definitely, we definitely saw that as a challenge, I suppose, in terms of like people selling properties. Like we had probably a 12-month period for my agency in particular that I had a lot of owners selling. So like heaps of owners that were selling properties, they couldn't afford it anymore with the interest rates and things like that. So a lot of people were exiting the market. Obviously that means less stock on the market for rent as well. I have seen a lot of investors that have their properties that they're looking to potentially move back in. So I'm finding that in terms of like people that have properties here, which, obviously is not great for the investor, the rental market.
Which suburbs are showing real value for investment? Where would you be buying? So like, let's take it off the property management hat and put on the investor hat. Where would you be let's say you have $500,000 to $550,000 and you're willing to do a little bit of work, you're willing to do a little bit of renovation. Where would you be putting your money right now?
Yeah, so I would be looking. Look, I'd be looking at areas like around Hoppers. I would be looking at like the back of Werribee and stuff like that. But I'd also be looking around Melton as well. I think there's lots of opportunity for great buys out there. But just obviously being careful that you have someone on the ground to make sure that you're purchasing a good property.
What about the land supply? What are your thoughts around, like, I guess property investing is based upon supply and demand, right? The more properties that there are on the market. So you can see here, this little pocket, this little region has already been cut up, forked in, ready to go to add another, 200 houses. And then there's all this land to continue to be built. Is that a consideration when you're thinking about like Melton, and how do you factor that into your investment consideration?
Yeah, I'm more talking about like the older part of Melton, so like around like that sort of inner Melton Harkness kind of pocket around there. Like there is a lot of infrastructure, there's a lot of developments like Atherstone and Strathteller and all around there is getting heavily built up, but it's sort of around that sort of 500 to 550 price point. I mean, I think that you can get something in that area for that price if you put like a little bit of capital into the property, and you're looking at, even if you're looking at buying a 3-bedder and turning it into like a 4-bedroom kind of property, or like putting a wall up or doing some paint and carpets and things like that, you'll be adding value onto that property as well. So yeah, but just obviously making sure that you have someone to sort of look at that. Or I would be looking around Hoppers. I think you can still get really great properties around there that is, it's on big land. There's so many schools, like there's so many great schools in Hoppers, like especially like Bellbridge Primary, things like that, Mossville, Cambridge, like they're all really great schools. And I do think that you can get something really good out.
So 550 is a bit tight though. So let's go 550 to 650. If you had 550 to 650, where would that money be going?
Yeah, I'd still be looking in Hoppers or Werribee. That's where I would be looking. Yeah.
Werribee has a bit of a reputation. What are your thoughts about that? What are your thoughts about reputation and what it actually means in terms of property prices and value, I guess?
Yeah, again, depends on like where you buy. So if you're looking at the birdcage, obviously that's a no-go zone for us. Or for me. But yeah, I don't know. I don't think Werribee, like it's the same as Wyndham-Vale, right? Like I said a few years ago, Wyndham-Vale had this thing about, that it wasn't a great area to live in. It was like a bit slummy kind of thing. Like I don't think it's like that anymore. We're doing a lot of properties out there at the moment that people are purchasing in those areas. So I guess again, looking at like the street, like what's surrounding the street, is it well maintained? Does it have a good reputation? Are the schools like that are close by, or the transport that's close by? Is there any like red flags? Having somebody that actually can go past the street and have a look at it, making sure that it's all the way that it should be, is really super important. So I mean, we work throughout all of the west of Melbourne, right? So like there are some areas that are not great in the west of Melbourne in terms of like, just the quality of renters, I suppose. But what I'm coming from a rental side, so we want to make sure that we get someone that is going to attract a really great tenant too.
What do tenants want to see in Victoria? What are some of the more attractive functions and features that we should be including in our homes when we're thinking about it from an investment perspective?
Yeah, so things like, from where we sort of sit would be looking at like little value adds, like maybe even like a split system, air conditioning, things like that are really good. Like one of the things that just come to my mind was that, you have like split system heating and cooling. There's proposals for like new regulations potentially. That means within a couple of years that owners would need to then put aircon in units anyway. So like if you're doing a renovation or something like that, you might as well just put the split system in the lounge room, and that would give you the heating and cooling component that you would need for the minimum standards. So most people are looking for that. Secure car parking is something that a lot of people are looking for, in my opinion. So even if it's like, a single car garage or like a gated kind of thing that's a bit like more secure, so the cars off the street, that would be something that tenants feel is really important. And little things like dishwashers as well. In my opinion, I think that dishwashers it's like, especially if you have someone that's like a young family, sometimes they're just a bit time poor, I suppose, but just little things. It doesn't cost very much to get the dishwasher put in there and the plumbing and stuff if it's not already there. There would be sort of things that people are looking for. But yeah, a good location is really super important. Obviously, being close to the schools, and we've retouched on that stuff as well. And a good workable floor plan and something that's clean and neat. Like the good quality properties, good quality renters are going to be attracted to good quality properties, right? So if you give someone not a nice property, then you're not going to get a great tenant, right? So it's all about making sure that you present the property as best as possible.
Viva said you can get a rebate on split systems at Victoria at the moment. There you go.
Yeah. I won't. Yeah, I won't touch on that. It's not my expertise, but just double check that info. But yeah, like that's just one thing, because like there is proposals for heating and cool. Obviously, heating is already part of the minimum standards, but yeah, there's proposals to potentially put which haven't been approved yet. They're not there in limbo, but it means that properties would need to have aircon. So if you have the split system in there, most people are looking for that anyway. That's a heating and cooling component already kind of done. It's just like something that's really basic. Melbourne can get pretty hot in summer sometimes. 40 degrees on days, but that would be something that they would be looking for.